Nigeria has taken another IMF loan, this time for $2.5 billion, bringing Nigeria's total debt obligations to over $110 billion. I don't like this deal at all for Nigeria, and I don't think it's an exaggeration to say this is more of an economic hitman type move, and I'm going to explain why. The terms of this IMF loan may seem fair at first glance. It's a $2.5 billion loan at 1% interest rate that will be paid off over 40 years, with no payment due for over 10 years. But here's the problem. The loan needs to be paid back in Western currencies, and the Naira is losing significant value every year, meaning this loan is going to end up costing tens of billions of dollars to Nigeria within a decade. From an economic sense, the effective interest rate would be 1% plus the depreciation of the Naira relative to the US dollar. In the past year, the Naira depreciated 50%, meaning the interest rate would be 51% if the Naira depreciation continues. This is an economy-destroying debt obligation, of course because payments don't start until 2034, when all the current politicians will be long gone when the loan starts to come due. I can understand why this was a tempting loan to take. But let's say the Naira depreciation is only 10% per year, which is very generous. Even in this best-case scenario, that means by 2034, the principal in this loan will effectively grow from $2.5 billion to $7 billion. The payments will then be the equivalent of $1 billion a year and continue for 30 years. So for $2.5 billion today, Nigeria is agreeing to pay the Western banks $30 billion under a 10% inflation rate. But even the loan itself comes with other concessions that should worry Nigerians. Nigeria will have to keep a large portion of this money as foreign reserves, so they can't even spend much of it. They also need to end subsidies on oil, which will hurt their economy, and they will need to enact reforms which will make it easier for Western banks to compete with the domestic Nigerian banks. I understand that in many ways the current administration inherited these problems. However, the terms of this IMF loan will contribute to long-term insolvency. Nigeria has far too many assets, both in raw resources and a talented labor pool, to be in this debt spiral. And the longer they stay reliant on Western banks, the longer Nigeria will operate below their economic potential. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you think Nigeria should have taken this loan and agreed to the reforms that came along with it? Or should Nigeria have taken the more difficult path of breaking away from IMF loans?
What exactly is the IMF asking for? They're pushing for the CBDCs to go on in different countries. They're just, they have their footing in many different places. Is it your food? Is it your housing? This is the IMF we're talking about. Now, cuts to food and energy subsidies, as well as a reduction in the public wage bill, among others. This is the IMF. Elsewhere in West Africa, a certain president has sold his country for IMF's $3 billion by raising taxes and an absurd haircut on people's investments. The Tunisian president Kais Saied has rejected the foreign diktats from the International Monetary Fund, which is in stalled talks with a heavily indebted country over a bailout package. Now, the IMF has pushed Tunisia to remove the state subsidies as basic goods, particularly fuel. This is exactly the kind of leaders African countries need at the moment. There was once a Gaddafi, but unfortunately the enemies outnumbered his cabinet.
What do you want? You want us to sell Tunisia? Tunisia is not for sale. Foreign dictates that will lead to more poverty are unacceptable. The world must understand, as well as the financial institutions, such as the International Monetary Fund, that human beings are not figures or a set of numbers for subtraction and addition.
So the IMF prioritizes the interests of wealthy countries and corporations over the needs of developing nations and ordinary people, leading to policies that exacerbate inequality, social welfare, and economic instability. I will not be surprised if freedom is on its way. Tunisia's president speaks the truth in this video. Now, the IMF doesn't care about people's welfare now, does it? They impoverish countries through unrealistic action plans. It is clear now that they humiliate and weaken countries through these horrible loans. In a speech released on April the 6th, to be delivered at the 2023 spring meetings of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank Group in Washington, the IMF director, Kristalina Georgieva, shockingly voiced that Africa is facing a tremendous financial crunch and is being held back by unsustainable debt built over the years. However, her solution to the problem isn't without contradictions. So this idea raises questions about the sustainability of continuing to take on more debt to solve an already existing debt problem. The director also praised the African countries for raising taxes on wealthy individuals and, of course, businesses. And she said she is seeing positive development in the resource mobilization, a move that some economists argue hinders growth in the private sector. So despite these contradictions, 𝗗𝗶𝘀𝗰𝗂 pretended to be positive about Africa's future. Many investors say that IMF economic policies failed to address the global inequality and instead have contributed to exacerbating it, contending that policies often favor the politically connected and the super wealthy rather than the general public.
Hi guys, welcome to another video yet again. I keep on sharing these things because they are getting out of hand, and I mean, you sit in your house and you wonder what kind of a continent we live in. As always, I talk about the leaders, like it's really getting too tiresome to even talk about them because they keep doing the worst and worst and worst every single day. We have Kenya that is going on with the financial bill. Then now we have Nigeria that is taking on another loan from the IMF. The same kind of people that don't really want us Africans to grow, but we are still letting them give us money that we don't even utilize. Like, I keep going back to not utilizing the money. Africa has got and has been getting a lot of loans. A lot of loans. Like, we have a lot of resources. We have a lot of labor. I keep on saying that. But it's just crazy how we still accept, we still let ourselves be under a group of people that only have snow, a group of people that only have, like, they don't even have anything. It's just snow. That's what they have. We have everything. And it's just more wild because they have a paper and they want to take our minerals in exchange of a paper, and we let that happen. It's like we Africans eat a certain, like I always say, we Africans eat a certain kind of food. It's like we have a different kind of setting. Like our Microsoft is probably like different from the rest of the other races. So maybe that's why, because you really wonder, why are we the continent that has a lot of resources, but we are the ones that are constantly cheated on? We are the ones that are constantly looked under, and we let it happen. Our leaders let it happen. I like coming across videos where people are really starting to open eyes and talk about the reality that Africa is not going to grow from the loans of the colonizers. It's not going to happen. Someone who came and, took your independence is not someone that you should run to still help you get independence. Like, it just doesn't work that way. We need to fight on our own. We can pay the loans on our own, but we don't want to. Our leaders don't want to. They do benefit. They actually love. Our leaders love colonization. They love whatever situation that we are going through, because I mean, if they didn't, they would probably be doing better for the continent. And this is why I love the president of Burkina Faso, Mr. Traoré. He is a very intelligent man, strong man, and he's very bold to stand up on his ground as an African man and fight for his people of Burkina Faso. And recently there was a conference that he went to, and guess what? The president of Nigeria and Ghana did not show up. And I mean, are we shocked? Are we shocked? Guys, listen to what the president of Burkina Faso had to say, because I really love coming across his statements, because he's someone that speaks and actually does what he speaks or talks about. Yeah, get into the video.
This continent has suffered so much and continues to suffer because of imperialists. These imperialists have only one cliché in mind: Africa is the empire of slaves. This is how they see Africa. For them, Africans belong to them. Our lands belong to them. Our subsoil belongs to them. They have never been able to change the logic until today. This is deplorable. But how do they proceed? Unfortunately, it is since the 1960s that these 6,000 acres of independence have been given to Africa. They have just placed local valets at the head, according to them, of their sub-prefecture to be able to continue to feed them. These local valets, which we are going to call today the slaves of Salon, have other goals. They want to live like the master, to satisfy the master, and to do everything that the master dictates to them. They steal, they plunder our states, they bring everything to the master, and their wealth is kept with the master. They do everything to live like the master and always satisfy him. Do you know who these slaves of Salon are? Well, we are going to explain to you what they are. They are individuals who have no dignity, who have no morals, who have no personality. But the master slave has always known how to identify these individuals. They are always ready to betray their brother to satisfy the master. They have betrayed us since independence, and others continue to betray us to the benefit of their master. These individuals continue, against all odds, to help the master plunder Africa. They like to say it every year. In their economic polls, Burkina is the poorest country, Mali is the poorest country, Niger is the poorest country. We are ranked among the last. Very well, if we are as poor as they say. But when the time has come to take responsibility, we have asked this master to leave the place. Why don't they want to leave? When we take the case of Niger, for more than 40 years, some countries have been exploiting uranium to produce energy at home. From Ottawa to Paris, the streets are illuminated. It is the light. But in Niger, it is the darkness that has served us. When you go to our states, our soils are full of precious metals, such as gold. But often there is not even the slightest road accessible to reach the areas where they exploit gold, even less certain basic social services. This is why we have decided to revolt and take the fate of our countries into our own hands. There are many other examples. But when we decided so, we were approached by some saloon slaves to pass on the message of their master. Because they had created this kind of polymer chain that rises to the heads of our states to serve them. And we came to break the chain. And it is inconceivable for them. They approached us and asked us to enter the ranks to make the elite leave that must lead Africa. Because they have an elite formed and formatted that must follow, that is embedded in this chain. We refused to enter their ranks. And then the hostilities began. They have sent several mercenaries and trainers to our area. The agents have descended into the Sahel to carry out barbaric, cowardly attacks against our people, hoping to revolt them. In addition to these attacks on the ground, the attacks on communication, manipulation, and disinformation are full in their ranks. But the people of the Sahel have understood, and we will never be able to be manipulated again. They know where they come from, they know what they are doing, and they know where they are going. Very well, we have decided to take responsibility. Do you know why on June 26, 2023, when Niger decided to turn the page, the slaves of Salon and their masters got on the big horses? They put their local values forward and decided to wage a war against the Nigerian people. So we said, anyone who dares to take up arms against Niger will face us. Because we will wage a merciless war until the last drop of blood for anyone who dares to attack our states. So I hope that this moment will be for us a story that we will write for the AES, but especially for Africa and for the whole world.
Que Dieu illumine tout un chacun de nous
May God illuminate each and every one of us. May God inspire us in these tasks that are entrusted to us. And above all, that when we do all our work, that we have in mind only one thing: the supreme interest of our people.
One thing we need to accept is Mr. Traore of Burkina Faso is the new Gaddafi, the new Amin, the new Kwame Nkrumah. He's the new leader of Africa that sees the future of what Africa has to be, because he believes in himself, he believes in his people, he believes in what we are as a continent. Unlike our leaders that we actually have today that don't actually love their countries. They just love to eat, eat, and eat. I mean, if you already have loans that you've not cared for, and even when you get money from the IMF, you still use that money for your personal benefits and not for the country, how would you expect to get away from the loans in any way? And that's why they are so used to begging. I always say African governments, African people, African leaders are so used to begging, begging, begging. And I mean, the Western governments now know they just have to give money and get whatever they want. They just have to get our leaders sign contracts, like I always tell you guys. And, you know, we stay in debts. Because, I mean, we are getting loans that even our great-great-grandchildren are still going to find and have to pay. Why are we putting ourselves in that situation? Why are these leaders, why can't these leaders have some sense for once and love their countries? Actually, they get the money from the IMF to the country to show the people that we received the money. And then after they get that same money and put it back to the Western places and build, you know, schools there, build their mansions there, save their money there. They don't even save the money that they make in their own countries. How can such a leader really do better for his country? Like how? So I always say that, guys, we Africans eat some kind of food that is totally different. Like our food is different from the rest of other people, because if we were eating the same kind of food like any other group, I think we would be like other groups of people. But clearly we don't. It looks like we don't, and it's really sad to see. Our future descendants are going to find loans and loans by these people that will be dead probably in those times. Make it make sense, and we are accepting it. We are letting it happen, and it's just too much. It's really too much. So really, we need to step up. We need to keep and push the pressure, and mostly put it on our leaders, because they are the ones that are keeping us in colonization than the actual colonizers that came and did colonization on the African people. That's the reality. That's the truth of the matter. Guys, let me know what you think about this. Do you think we should continue to take loans? Is it that we can't survive without the loans of the West? Like, we have the resources, but we can't survive without the loans of the West. We have the fertile soil for growing food, but we still can't, you know, grow and be independent as African countries. Like, what is going on? Guys, let me know what you think about this. You know, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I am always posting. I appreciate your time. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.